You're listening to Don't IEP Alone with special education advocate Lisa Lightner. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. Now back to the show with your host, Lisa.
Hi there and welcome. I'm Lisa Lightner. This is Don't IEP Alone, my simple little podcast about IEPs. And I have some exciting news. Good news, bad news. Don't worry, no, the podcast is not going away, but it is going to get a facelift. So last month I went on a road trip with my younger son to visit some schools. And since we were going to be in the car for extended periods of time, I said, well, why don't you line up a couple of podcasts you want to listen to? Because I also knew that we were going out into central Pennsylvania where sometimes radio and stuff is a little spotty. So he picked out some podcasts, and I knew they were all going to be sports related because that's him. It's my son. We're listening to these podcasts, and some of the folks are famous for their podcasts in addition to their sport or their athletic ability or their athletic career. And some are definitely much more famous for just their athletic career. A mix, right? Some people have these, some former and current athletes have these podcasts that are relatively unknown, and others, were sometimes relatively unknown in sports, but then became much better known for podcasting. Anyway, I listened to a variety of these podcasts, and the reason I'm not saying their names is that I don't want to criticize anyone publicly, but I just thought some of them were terrible. They were really, there were some times that I just said to my son, this is unlistenable. We need to change this. This is terrible. And it wasn't even that it was, I don't care if people curse. He's 16 years old. He's heard curse words. It wasn't even that. It wasn't the adult content or anything like that. It was unlistenable because it was just guys talking about what happened at practice or what happened at a game one time. And there was not a clear and focused message. If I guess the goal of these podcasts is just to entertain, I did not find some of them very entertaining. So that got me to thinking, what is going on with my own podcast? And I'm not just here to entertain. I'm not just here to have this word vomit just to fill up space, because that was another thing I found with some of these more famous podcasts, that it really felt like the content they were putting out was just there to fill up space. Like somebody told us we have to do a half hour or an hour podcast, so we're just going to talk about dumb crap. And again, I found much of it to be unlistenable. I also listen to podcasts in my office sometimes, depending on what I am listening or what I'm working on. If I can, do that. Sometimes my work requires my full concentration, but other times, it's an easier task and I can listen and, pick up a few tips. And I've been listening to some of the quote unquote, experts in the online business world, in the entrepreneur world, the female entrepreneur world, because that's the kind of stuff I listen to, because I do run an online business. And I'm an IEP advocate first and business person second. So those are sometimes the components that I struggle with. But I'm listening to these experts, and this is what inspired me to record this episode today. I'm making a final decision, because I'm listening to this episode and I looked at the timer, and 7 minutes in, she still hadn't said anything of substance. 7 minutes, and she's talking about what she's going to talk about, and why we need this, and this, and her feelings, and I think this, and I think that, and what I want for you is this, but no concrete action steps, and we were 7 minutes in. That to me is just too much. I don't have that kind of time, nor does my brain need to process any more unnecessary information? And I thought, I really hope I'm not frustrating my listeners with this nonsense of me rambling and what I feel like I want to talk about today, all that. I want this to be useful for you. I want to acknowledge that your time is valuable. I want to acknowledge that for all of us right now, our brain bandwidth is on overload. We are being asked to process a lot more information and a lot more decisions than we were, just 2 years ago. So I am going to pause the podcast. I'm going to republish some old episodes, which I encourage you to listen to. They're a little bit longer, but they are timely. They will have timely information. IEP information doesn't really go out of date much until IDEA changes. And then I'm going to come back in a week or two, right around Labor Day. And I'm going to try to, our school starts before Labor Day, so I hope to get these published before then. But I want to have direct action items, teachable moments, bite-sized chunks of information that you can take away and go, wow, I really learned something with that. And I'm going to use that in my advocacy, or I'm going to use that in my teaching. Because that's what, I think that's what I need, and that's what you need. I've already shortened my podcast. It used to be around 20 or 30 minutes. I was told when I first started that you should do it that way because that is the average commuting time in America, is like 22 minutes or something. And so that you should aim for right in that ballpark, because when people are commuting, that's when a lot of people listen to podcasts. So I think 22 minutes to sit and listen to me talk is too much, and then I shortened it. And I'm not going to talk just to have something to say, right? My dad used to say when I was little, diarrhea in the mouth, because sometimes I just wouldn't stop talking. But I'm going to have, again, these short, bite-sized chunks of information, news you can use, so to speak, tips, action items, and things like that, so that we can all move forward, because all of us, teachers, parents, students, admins, related service providers, advocates, attorneys, we are all asking or being asked to do more with less. And that matters. Excuse me. So anyway, enjoy these last few breaths of summer. I will be back with new episodes in, a week or two. And again, new ones will come in your feed. If you are following on Apple or Spotify or any of those places, new ones will appear in the feed, but those will be, I'll pick, like a best of, the most popular reruns. And you will notice, hopefully, when it's relaunched in a couple of weeks, it will have a new graphic, and it will be noticeable that, like, hey, these are the new episodes. So anyway, stay tuned, and thank you so much for listening and subscribing. If you need any IEP information in the meantime, please visit adayinourshoes.com. If you ever want to ask a question, you can go to village.adayinourshoes.com. Every question is answered by a working advocate. I have a launch coming up with the training. That's going to be also happening around Labor Day, where my training is going to open up again for the fall. My book publishes in October. There's information on my homepage of adayinourshoes.com if you would like to pre-order the book. A lot of great stuff. Oh, I have a special going on. I don't know when this is going to publish. I have a great special going on some of my products that ends on the 14th. There's a banner at the top of the site when you go to adayinourshoes.com if you would like to check that out. If you listen to this after the 14th, don't go there and look. It's a back to school sale. Anyway, take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon. I'm excited about this. I hope you are too.
Thank you for listening to Don't IEP Alone with Special Education Advocate Lisa Lightner. We're so glad you've joined us and would love to connect with you outside of the show. For more information about Lisa, the IEP Toolkit, and more ways we can help you in your process, go to adayinourshoes.com. From self-care tips to common IEP mistakes, there's even more to explore. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast and subscribe to never miss an episode. Until next time, don't IEP alone, and you don't have to.